Hello and welcome to today's class. I'm so excited that you're here. My name is Andrea Skitch. I'm a psychotherapist and a trauma specialist and a yoga teacher. And I'm very interested in how we can navigate these times with very sophisticated tools because there's a lot of uncertainty right now. There's a lot of room for creativity. Right? We're in a time when lots of systems of thought are being broken down and dismantled, and there's lots of chaos around that, and we're all sensing that. But that also means that there's fertile ground for lots of creativity and bringing in the new. So I want us to all feel really equipped with the tools that we need and with the mindset and the perspective that we need to feel confident and creative and be able to kind of break free of any blockages that you may be experiencing. We all have them, so that you can continue to exhibit your gifts, right? The talents and the wisdom and the gifts that you are naturally born with, and you are born with them, if you're wondering. So that's my goal. My goal is to set you up for success and to support you on your path that way. Today, I want to talk a little bit about something called dissociation. And in particular, if you're somebody who's thinking about potentially doing an EMDR intensive with me, which I'm going to explain in a minute what that is, then I want you to consider this sort of checklist that I'm going to share with you today. That would help you kind of discern where you are in your journey and whether or not this could be potentially a fit for you. So an EMDR Intensive is a program that I offer for people who are interested in doing an accelerated therapeutic experience. So it consists of a beginning, a middle, and an end, where the beginning, we set up, work together one-on-one, and we set up the goals that you want to achieve in the amount of time that we have. And we explore what resources you need to enhance or maybe just simply identify. We work a little bit with your nervous system and make sure that you feel equipped to navigate that. And then we spend time together doing EMDR work. So this could look in the form of 1 day, or it could be in the form of 3 days. And then, of course, there's a follow-up session that we do together to kind of integrate everything that we've worked on. So it's a really awesome experience for clients who are interested and who are ready to do this kind of thing. It's different than the weekly model of therapy because you can kind of, carve out time, almost like a retreat. You carve out time and space in your life to just focus on one particular thing that you just want to be able to get on the other side of. So it's nice because it's fairly focused. It's time sensitive. It doesn't require you to manage your schedule week after week or month after month with your therapist, and sort of do it in the long version. Not that that's wrong. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And for some people that is the right fit. But I want people to have options, and I want them to know that there are different ways of doing the work. So an EMDR intensive is an amazing experience where you can do something a little different, right? So if you're thinking about doing an EMDR intensive and you're wondering, okay, well, how do I know if this is something that is a good fit for me in my journey so far? Then the first thing you want to do is watch the video that I created around the 3 stages of healing from trauma. And I will link that below. So I want you to have a sense of sort of what is the overall journey around healing trauma. And the second thing I want you to do is listen now to these criteria and learn a little bit about dissociation. Okay, so I'm going to jump into that. So what is dissociation? Well, dissociation is the mind-body ability that we all inherently have to disconnect from painful experiences, memories, or sensations, or emotions, or even thoughts that are too overwhelming for us. Right? This is an outcome of trauma, and trauma doesn't have to be a one big major event, although it could be. It could be just a chronic, ongoing stressor or lack of having certain needs met. And that even can be overwhelming to our nervous system. And what we are built with, which is this amazing creative capacity to navigate trauma, to navigate distress in a way that helps us to cope in the moment, right? So we need to be able to survive in the moment. We need to be able to be safe, put one foot in front of the other. We need to be able to eat. We need to be able to, find a safe place. And that all cannot happen if our nervous system is completely overwhelmed with fear, with anger, or any other kind of negative emotion, no matter, even if it's extremely reasonable and relevant. So what happens is the nervous system has this way of shutting off anything that is too overwhelming. And most people come to therapy and seek my support because they realize that has gone on for too long, that what was once really adaptive in the moment, maybe when things were happening, typically in childhood, has no longer become adaptive for them. It is now maladaptive. It's essentially unhelpful. They find themselves, with patterns of, behaviors that they're not happy with, or emotional states that they're not happy with, or relational interactions that they're not happy with. And all of that is typically an outcome of some level of dissociation. So it's sort of like we have to rework, the puzzle, right? How do we integrate literally what we know now as our wise adult selves with what we didn't know then, right? We didn't know then that, breath, for example, is a way to navigate scary feelings. We probably didn't know that. We didn't know then that you can use the power of the mind to actually find a safe place if you don't exist in a safe place. We didn't know that. We didn't know that what the mind puts its attention on shifts our whole state, right? So there's lots of things that we didn't know then that we can know now or learn now. And that's part of healing dissociation. Okay, so now you have a little bit of a sense of what dissociation is. Now I'm going to go into kind of explaining what are the different things that you want to look out for. Sorry, there's a loud truck going by my window. Just a second. Let me close the window. Okay. That was helping us dissociate from what's going on here. Okay, so what do you want to look for if you are interested in an EMDR intensive, and why do you need to know about dissociation? I'm going to make those two things more clear in a minute. Okay. First of all, I want to say, if you have aspects of dissociation, you could still be a good candidate for an EMDR intensive. Okay, so they're not mutually exclusive. But I want you to have a good understanding in terms of where you are so that you would know whether or not you would benefit from the EMDR intensive model, or whether or not you are better suited at this stage for the weekly model. Okay, so here are some things to look for if you're thinking about the intensive model. Number one, are you self-responsible for your own healing journey? Okay, what do I mean by that? Are you ultimately aligned with the value and the belief and the knowing that you are responsible for your own healing as well as your own reality making, right? Do you have that awareness that, or do you feel kind of stuck in this, this feeling that the world is against you? Or that no matter what you do, you can't get out of just bad things happening to you. Okay. It's not wrong to have that perspective if that's how you feel. Let's have compassion, because we all, have to navigate really hard things sometimes. It's just an indicator, though, that there might be some work to do first on helping you to align with that deeper knowing that you actually have more control than you think. Does that mean that you have to feel that all the time? No, of course not, right? Like, nobody feels one way all the time. But if you are sort of rooted in the belief that, stuff just happens and it's big and it happens to you, and there's really not much you can do about it, but you're still suffering and you want support, you do need support. And that's a good thing to look for. So you're on the right track. But an EMDR intensive requires somebody to have just that next level of feeling that they can align with that belief, and that they know that that's possible. Okay. So if you're not there yet, then work with your therapist to see if you can get there. Okay. The next thing I want you to think about is, are you resourced enough? Are you resourced enough? Okay. What do I mean by that? Do you have a safe place to go to when you are dysregulated? Are you surrounded by people in your life that you can trust? Do you have contact with people that you feel you can be yourself with? Do you know what you need when you are triggered? And can you actually follow through with meeting those needs? Like, do you have like a mini list of like a couple things that you can do when you're not feeling great or when you feel activated? Like, do you know what that is? Do you know what those things are? Even if you don't do them all the time, that's okay. But do you have that awareness? Do you have that, again, sort of self-responsibility? Okay. And do you have enough resources around you, and that you've already done the work to access within you, that you could call upon those things, if stuff gets a little rocky for you. Okay. Okay. Moving on. Have you already established a relationship with your nervous system? Okay. What does that mean? Do you know how to identify what state you're in? Okay. So do you know when you're in fight or flight? Do you know what those signs and symptoms are for you as an individual? Because we're all different, right? Do you know when you're in kind of a dorsal shutdown depressive state? Do you know when you're in a people-pleasing, fawn, freeze kind of place? Those states are not wrong, okay? It's not that you're setting yourself up for the expectation that you're not going to be in those states, right? Everybody's going to be in those states sometimes. But do you have an awareness? Have you already done some of the work around figuring out what those states look like for you as an individual, and how to work on bringing yourself back into your window of tolerance? Again, it doesn't mean that you do this all the time. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect at it. But do you have an awareness of that and what that looks like? If you do, then you are already becoming the manager of your dissociation. Okay. And if you don't feel like you have that awareness yet, if you're still working on that, then that's great. That's a good place to be. Now you know that might be an area you want to look at with your therapist. Okay. So do you have some relationship with the somatic body stuff, right? That's what I'm getting at. Do you have some awareness and tools around how to navigate that or relate to that? Okay. Next is, do you have some awareness of your attachment style and what you need from others to feel safe? You don't have to label the attachment style. Don't worry about that phrase particularly. But do you have some sense of how you attach and detach from other people in your life, particularly intimate relationships, but also friendships and family? It's not wrong to have different styles of attachment with different people. It's not wrong to have whatever style you have, right? And it's not set in stone. But do you have some awareness of how you typically relate to others and what you need to feel a little bit more safe in relationships? Again, if you're not sure about that, that's okay. Just, maybe that's an area to explore a little bit with your therapist first. Okay. These things will come up in the EMDR intensive too. So I don't want you to think that you have to be an expert on all of this. That's my job. My job is to guide you through all of this. But I just want to kind of, lay out the different aspects so that you can begin to gauge, okay, what do I need to learn a little bit more about? What could I maybe even work on in an intensive with Andrea, depending on where I'm at with everything, which is something you could determine with me. Okay. But these are some of the things to just think about. The next thing is, do you know what desired emotional experience you want from the work you're going to do in your intensive? Do you have a sense of, I'm here, and I want to be here. Even if you don't have the language for that, that's okay. I can help you with that. But do you have a sense of, where you want to go? Do you have an intention? Do you have a prayer for how you want to get, or where you want to get to? How you get there is something that we'll set up together. Do you have an awareness, or let me start that one again. Are you actively feeling suicidal, or do you have self-harming behaviors, addictions or otherwise, that you don't feel you have sort of achieved stability around? It's not to say that those having an addiction of some kind or having suicidal thoughts is necessarily precludes you from doing an EMDR intensive, but there is a level of self-trust that you need to have, and a level of self-planning and security within the self that you should have already done work on in order to enter an EMDR intensive safely. Okay. And if you're not sure about that, these are the things we can talk about in an assessment. So you don't have to have all the answers. I just want to get your wheels turning. What else? So in working with me specifically, because of my particular perspective and how I view the world and how I can best serve people, I asked, do you have some version of a spiritual practice? Do you have some kind of active relationship with spirit? This could be just through prayer, through breath, through yoga, through meditation, through art, through hikes in nature. It doesn't matter what the thing is. It's just, do you have some kind of relationship with spirit, both within you and outside of you, that we could sort of build on and enhance, really? And do you just feel, after learning all of this and then looking at my website with more details about an EMDR intensive, do you just feel in your body it's a yes? We have to remember to ask our body what, that's where the wisdom lies. Our body has this capacity to actually experience the future. It can predict the future. When in the yogic perspective, it's taught that if you are about to experience some kind of crisis in the next 2 days, your body will already start to breathe differently. So imagine how amazing it would be if we could all be that in tune with our body, right? That we could be so aware of those subtleties, that we could, just be a little bit more intentional about how we navigate the world, how we create safety, and how we deepen our practice, which is what keeps us, stable, I guess you could say, in unstable experiences, right? Or in crises. So the body knows more than we give it credit for. That's what I want you to take away from that comment. So here's a simple thing you can do. You can say out loud to yourself the following: body, what will I feel if I do an EMDR intensive with Andrea? And I really, your body will tell you right away. Okay. You can do this with other things, right? Body, what will I feel like if I eat that particular food? Body, what will I feel like if I talk about this particular issue with my partner today? Okay. So it's a great tool. I really want you to, start to practice that and just see for yourself. This is the age of experience. This is not the age of knowledge. That age is over. Yes, we need to have knowledge, but it's actually the greatest wisdom comes from experience. So allow yourself to experience different things, different tools, different perspectives, and then you decide for yourself, right? This is the age of self-initiation. Okay, it's up to you how you want to live it. It's up to you what you want to do with your time and how you want to relate to your body. Okay. All right. So only 2 more things to think about, and they're a little bit more practical. Do you experience yourself as an abundant being who places value on investing in your wellness right now? Right? Do you really see and feel the value of doing that? And therefore you feel good. You feel good about investing in an EMDR intensive. That's important. right? It should be a yes. It should be a when I know that when I invest in my well-being, I expand from that, and that brings more wealth and more abundance into my life, whether it be monetary or otherwise. Okay, so that's kind of a perspective to consider. And then finally, are you practically able to prioritize this experience in your schedule? So can you carve out time and space for this experience in a way that feels really good to you? Right. So that brings me to just explaining very briefly, what the EMDR Intensive can actually look like. So it starts with a 90-minute session where we do problem solving and connecting and goal setting. I'm doing assessments with you. We're doing exercises together. We're sort of figuring out where you are and where your nervous system is at and what you want a bigger experience of. That is the key question. What do you want a bigger experience of in your life? I want more peace and calm with my partner. I want to feel more embodied more often. I want to experience more confidence at work, in particular in relation to my boss. I want a bigger experience of creativity. I want to feel like I have access to my creative flow self. I want to have a bigger experience of spirit in me. I want to have a bigger experience of, self-responsibility, achievement around my moods. Okay, you get the gist. What do you want a bigger experience of? So that's what we look at in the first session, and we try to create a map for how you're going to get there in the experience. And then we carve out the allotted amount of time for the next few days that allows us to dive deep into what it is you want a bigger experience of and what's getting in the way of that. And in that process, we use the EMDR approach. We use, and then I add also, of course, meditation and Kundalini yoga to set you up for success. And we go into the nitty gritty together and we do the work, and it's really exciting and it's really creative and it's really powerful. It's really powerful because not only are we, sort of practically looking at what you need, we're also creating almost like a force field, right? Or a yogic term would be like a mandala. Like we're creating this time and space, we're using it intentionally to hone in on something and creating a transformation. Okay, so it's on many, many levels that the transformation happens. And then we end with an integration session. So we look at what we've achieved, what took place, what did we learn, and how you can continue to integrate and move forward in your life, in particular around your desired experience. Okay. So that just gives you a little bit of a taste of what an EMDR intensive is like. At this point, I'm going to say thank you so much for listening to this part of the video. Also want to let you know that if you are somebody who is dealing with anxiety, you can look on my website under digital programs, and there you will find an hour-long video. It's actually a mini course on dealing with anxiety, alchemizing your anxiety. There's a workbook included, and in the video, I just kind of take you through the workbook and give you a bit of education and a bit of container sort of around that experience. So you're welcome to check that out if that feels like a fit for you. It's $55, and it takes about, an hour to go through the video. It might take you longer doing the actual the workbook for yourself, but it's not a big investment of time or money, and it can be really transformative for people who are dealing with anxiety specifically. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to move now into a little bit of meditation for today, because that's one of the reasons that I'm doing this class with you all today. But if that feels complete to you, then thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for participating in this with me. If you have any questions, you can email me at therapy@andreaskitch.com. I look forward to hearing from you about where you're at on your journey and how I can support you. Okay, so now moving into some of our work today. Okay, I just want to read to you this beautiful poem that I came across. It's only a couple lines. But you know how things can kind of come to you when you are just going about your daily life, things that kind of like capture your attention. So I wrote this down. I don't even remember what movie it was from. It was from some like fantastical fantasy kind of movie. I literally have no idea what it was. So we'll see if it shows up in my life now that I've put that out there years ago. But for some reason, I wrote down this little phrase that I think maybe a priest or some kind of spiritual leader maybe said at like a funeral within the program or something, but I thought it was so beautiful. So anyway, here we go. Who knows if the author will find its way to me. In love we begin, to light we return. Love begets love, and light begets light. We are one with all that is and ever will be. We are one with all that is and ever will be. How gorgeous is that, right? Isn't that beautiful? I just love it. And what's funny was I just wrote it down randomly on this card. And I don't know, it just got lost in my stuff. And then recently I was just looking for something, I don't know, a book or whatever. And it just literally jumped out at me. And so I just think it's kind of like a reminder at this stage, maybe even in my own personal journey, I don't know, maybe in all of our journey, for me to share this idea that, you know, love really is the frequency. It is the God frequency. It is the spirit frequency. It is the creative and creator frequency. And it is actually the frequency in which we all naturally exist. Okay. So let that be just like a simple reminder, right? Like we need some John Lennon in here right now. Like, it's just like, let's go back to basics. Why are we making things so complicated? Let's just go back to the fact that in love we begin and to light we return, right? Light is the full spectrum of the frequency, right? Of the, I don't know, I need a good word there. You can fill it in. And love begets love and light begets light. So what does that mean? Well, to me, it means that the more you identify with the fact that you are a loving being, that is essentially your essence, and that you are a light being, right? Those things go together. Then that's what you attract. That's what you create. That's what you create. Let's start there. And then therefore, that's what you attract, right? It starts with you. It starts with you. Is that easy? No, of course not. It's complicated, but that's why we're here on this plane, because this plane is like school. It's like our soul was like, sure, I want to know how to be even more light and love amongst the darkness, right? I don't know how to do that. Well, you got to go to a place where there's duality. You got to know what the dark is in order to even recognize the light, right? So it's like, you know, I've heard this description before, like Earth is like the school of this for the soul. Right? And how cool is that? Right? Like, even though there's so much suffering, and I don't want to minimize that for any second, but what if your soul decided, it made a contract with itself that it was going to come here in the muck at this time because it wants to remember how much love and light it's actually made of, right? We need the duality. That is what exists in this 3D reality, is duality. This is a duality, polarity place. With everything, there's this and that, right? So what better education can you get, really, right? On that level. I mean, even trauma is like, I mean, I guess I have pulling thoughts about this, but it's a fertile ground. Let's say it that way. It's a fertile ground to be pulled into polarity. I mean, trauma literally pulls us into different selves. The self that will protect us at all cost, right? The self that is vulnerable, and God knows it's fucking hard to be that vulnerable, right? The self that is always connected to the light, no matter what, the unchanging self, right? We're literally like, you know, pulled into fragmented pieces. What is that? That's duality, right? That's polarity. Part of me, we say that in our language, part of me feels this, part of me feels this. Part of me feels like, I want to go back and like revisit that trauma because I want to move forward. And part of me is like, hell no, that's too much pain. I can't go there. That's polarity, right? This is the human experience. So what do we do with that? Well, it's like, okay, so we're coming back to that there is an unchanging self, unchanged self. There's always the unaffected self, right? That is the one that is closely connected to love and light. Not love and light like, oh, nothing matters, and let's just give hugs to everybody. Like, I mean, maybe that's what you want to do, and I'm all for that, but I'm talking about the God in you, the divine in you that sees all polarity, that accepts all polarity, that accepts that there is pain and there is pleasure and there is creativity and there is destruction, right? That's what I'm talking about. That is the light. That is the love. It's, I see it all and I can accept it all. And I still am connected to the divine, right? In whatever way that looks for you. So that to me is what love begets love and light begets light refers to. And then we are one with all that is and all and ever will be. This is a very quantum phrase, right? In my mind. It's this idea that we are, have you heard of the phrase, like we're just a drop in the same ocean, right? Bob Marley. Oh, what is this phrase? Help me out, Patricia. All one, one love. That's it. I found it. One love. Like it's we are we're one. We're part of the same. We're part of the same. We're just different versions of the same, right? Jesus said we're made in God's, we're all made in God's image, right? That's what that means, right? We are literally all connected to the same. And I've learned from the Tao perspective is that we go on this like hero's journey, right? We come from God, we come from the divine, we come from the creator, and this oneness, this ocean of oneness, which is just like pure potentiality. And then we go on this hero's journey. What's a hero's journey? Well, the hero is happy where they are. They don't want to go anywhere. They're happy at home, right? But then there's a call. Something happens, some kind of crisis, some kind of burst of expansion, some kind of like transformation, but it requires something of the main character. They have to make a choice, right? You're going to stay home and ignore all of that, or are you going to keep going? Are you going to go through the thing to get to the other side, even though you have no idea where you're going? You have no idea, what's coming your way, but you have a knowing that for some reason you're being pulled in this certain direction. And so the hero decides to take on the challenge, right? We could call that the trauma, actually, if you wanted to. That could be the traumatic event, right? It's a portal. And then hopefully the hero says yes, well, or maybe he doesn't really have a choice, or she, right? Along the path she goes. And like another challenge encounters and another challenge encounters. And this is how it goes. But each time, what we want to do actually is achieve the positive belief that comes from that challenge. Okay. So this is where we can rely on our wonderful, still limited, but better knowledge of how the brain works. Well, we have something called neuroplasticity. Well, what is that? It's the brain's ability to learn. We can either learn that we are stuck in a dark place, right? Where some kind of negative belief it feels true. I'm not enough. It was my fault. I should have known better, or whatever the thing is, right? And until we shift that belief to a positive belief, the journey will just continue. And that's not wrong, actually. That's not bad. It's just continually these opportunities, right? Like a mirror. Okay, well, you're going to believe it yet? No, you're still believing the negative. Okay, you want to believe the positive? No. Okay, you're not there yet. That's cool. Keep going. It's like, that's what happens until we learn, right? We unlearn the negative belief and we learn the positive belief. But it's not just like something I know it's true. It's a learned belief creates all these positive neural networks, right? I am enough the way that I am, right? I did the best I could, right? And it's hard to get there, but That's the journey. So that's what all these other like subsequent challenges are. They're just opportunities to rewrite the story. Why? Because we want to ultimately, on the spiritual journey, which is much bigger than one lifetime, get back to home. But you can't get back home unless you're able to kind of navigate what it is to be a light being, right? What it is to actually be able to harness that love and connection. It's sort of like the divine is like, are you ready yet? Are you ready to see what you really are? Are you really ready to take on the responsibility that goes with being somebody who's pure light and love? Like, are you really ready for that? Right? Are you really remembering how powerful you are? Let's give them another challenge. It's like, okay, I'm going to throw a relationship challenge at you. I'm going to throw like, maybe even some tragedy, unfortunately, right? I mean, I don't know exactly how those things are decided, but, and on she goes on the hero's journey, right? So we have the lifetime hero's journey, but we also have the spiritual hero's journey, which is a much bigger incarnational journey. I need a raspberry after all that. Okay. Okay. Why did I get on that tangent? Oh, right. Our beautiful poem. Okay. I think that's all I want to say. Let's do some meditation to end off today. Okay. I want to do this meditation with you called Meditation to Conquer Self-Animosity. So going back to this idea that we are all fragmented, right? To some of us more than others, depending on the kind of work we've been able to do, also depending on just what we've been through and what resources we've had or not had. So it's not a judgment, it's just accepting all that is. Self-animosity is, in my view, the number one reason that we get stuck. And it's so common. Like I've done my own EMDR therapy too. Like I know what it's like to experience self-animosity. And actually it's oftentimes extremely subtle and it benefits the subconscious, right? The subconscious wants you to just stay safe. It doesn't want to deal with stuff necessarily. I guess I should call it more the negative mind than the subconscious. The negative mind just doesn't want you to go where it's scary, right? And that's understandable. So how do we get stuck in self-animosity? Well, we begin to turn on ourselves. We begin to turn on ourselves and despise, dislike, diminish, abandon, reject, criticize the parts of ourselves, right? This is what Jung called the shadow self. The parts of ourselves that we cannot accept, right? We don't want to accept because it's too painful or it's too scary, right? We think if I accept there's a part of me that procrastinates, then what does that say about me, right? If I accept that there's a part of me that oftentimes, takes me away from my practice, what does that say about me? It makes me a bad yogi, right? What about the part of me that doesn't want to connect with other people? What does that say about me? I'm a bad person. I'm a bad partner. I'm flawed, whatever the thing, right? We're meaning making all the time. And what we do and what we fall into is the habit of going with that narrative story, that narrative or that negative story about ourselves. Why? Because honestly, it's easier. It's kind of a cop-out on some level. It's not conscious. Because what's the alternative? The alternative is listening to the part, understanding why you might have this part, accepting that you have this part, even if you don't like it, and that's okay. Making room for this part in your life, right? And detaching, that's a magical word. Detaching from this made up story about what it says about you, right? We live in a world that is so starved of compassion that we don't even know what it feels like to be compassionate to ourselves. We don't have there is no like accessible archetype for that right now in culture. The only one, who do you think of when you think of compassion? In terms of leaders or structure? Jesus, Mother Teresa. I'm only thinking of Christian examples. Give me some other examples. I'm sure you can think of other ones. Buddha, whatever, right? Yeah. So like, you know, there are examples all over the world of these different beings who Kuan Yin, who, you know, embody compassion. And that's great. Like, you know, wonderful. But what about the daily man or woman or person? Who represents compassion for us? Who can we like, what is the archetype that we can like latch onto that is the compassionate person? It is hard to find. I do not know. I do not see that anywhere. I'm not saying there is no compassion. I'm saying, where is the archetype, right? Where is the structure? Where is the model of this like compassionate, strong woman, for example? Who is she? Compassionate and strong. Can you think of somebody? Maybe, if you can, let me know. I want to know. I'm not saying those people don't exist. I'm talking about the archetype. So you have to create your own, right? You have to create your own model, your own resource, something to exemplify that which you actually have in you, right? I'm not saying it's wrong to, if you want to attach to and you know, pull from somebody like Mother Teresa, like go for it. I'm just saying, like, you know, we need lots of examples that resonate with us, that feel accessible to us, so that we can model that with ourselves. And it's not easy. I'm not here trying to preach that I do this perfectly. Absolutely not. But that's, to be honest with you, I think that's one of the reasons that I really like the Kundalini yoga perspective, because it's this really nice mix of remembering how powerful we are, remembering how we create our reality, remembering how, or teaching us, maybe I should put it that way, teaching us that it's nobody else's job to look after us but ourselves, and that we are fully capable of that. And not only that, it's actually our responsibility to give back as well. It's part of the yogi's path, which I think should be, you know, this should just be a value in humanity, that wherever you go or wherever you've been, you leave that place better than before you got there. And that doesn't have to be like you're solving everybody's problem. That's not what I'm saying. It's just your presence, your energy, you being your whole you, and all the parts of you, and your frequency makes things better. It adds to, it enhances, right? Does that mean you have to be like happy all the time? No. It's just, you know, are you existing within an idea and hopefully with some kind of practice that brings you closer to who you actually are, which is this love light being we talked about earlier, right? Okay, I digress. I think you're getting what I'm saying, right? Okay, so let's not talk, let's do. Because again, this is the age of experience. Like, don't take my word for it. Do it and experience it yourself, and you decide what you think of all this, okay? And what you think of how you're going to reduce your self-animosity. Do you even want to, first of all? Just because I'm saying it's a good idea. Actually, you know, it's like, here's another yogi perspective, as far as I've kind of downloaded it from my teachers. You know, one of my teachers would say, I don't care if you do this or not. Like, I really don't. It's self-initiation. You have to care if you do this, right? And I think that's a really refreshing perspective, especially for me, somebody who's so empathic and, like, you know, sometimes overly attached to what other people are doing, how well or unwell they are. So allow me to pretend, or not pretend, that's funny I said that. Allow me to practice embodying that. I don't care if you do this or not. But so you decide if you want to do it. But let me show you how to do it, so that if you want to, you can. Okay. So let's tune in together. Okay. Let's just get the frequency. Let's sort of plug in to that divine those teachers that teacher within us. Okay, so we're going to chant Ong Namo Guru Dev Namo. So find your tall spine. You can be in a chair or you can be sitting on the floor. Let's rub the palms together. Bring them to the heart center. Take a moment and just allow yourself to really fully arrive at this moment. Allow your chest to be slightly up, your chin slightly in, your shoulders down and relaxed. And listen to the sound of your own breathing for a moment before we tune in. Okay, and let's inhale to begin. Take a deep inhale. Om Namo Guru Dev Namo Om Namo Guru Dev Namo Om Namo Guru Dev Namo. And inhale. Hold the breath. Press the palms together. And exhale. Good job. Okay. I'm just going to read something to you before we do this meditation. Our greatest enemy is ourself. Self-defeating behaviors and attitudes occur when we do not accept ourselves. Our self-animosity distracts us from the real gift of life, the capacity to confront and experience the self in relationship to the unknown infinity of ourself. This meditation conquers the state of self-animosity and gives us the ability to maintain a consciousness in support of the core self. The result is forgiveness. So we are going to sit with a tall spine and we're going to use a certain mudra, which is a shape. We're going to put our palms kind of in a fist, and then the fingers go together in the front and the thumbs come like they've got this little antenna. And it's just going to be resting at your heart center like so. Relax the arms and relax your shoulders. We're going to have a really tall, stable spine when we do this. So I want you to just pay attention to your the positioning of your spine and just enjoy it like imagine you're like a tall tree and you're just very, very sturdy. And our eyes are going to be fixed at the tip of the nose. So when you do this, you're not actually looking at the tip of your nose per se, but you're just looking down as though you could see it. Like you kind of end up seeing it in both eyes. So find your comfort there. In a moment, I'm going to turn on the music. We're just going to listen to the mantra, but we're also going to listen to our breath. And the breath is simple. It's an inhale through the nose. It's an exhale through the mouth. I'm going to do this more slowly than this. It's an inhale through the mouth. And it's an exhale through the nose. Okay, but more slowly than that. More slowly and intentionally. Just going to get our timer going and going to get our music. So again, you're inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth, the nose. Find your pace, nice and slow and relaxed and deep. Eyes are focused near the tip of the nose. Now bring your arms up above your head and take a deep inhale. Hold the breath. Let the energy move up. And exhale. Deeply inhale again. Hold the breath. Exhale. Deeply inhale again. Reach up. And exhale, relax the arms down. Stay in the condition for a moment. Notice what you're noticing. Beautiful. So this meditation is great as a tool. You can do this for 3 minutes and just come back to yourself anytime you need to. Thank you for your practice. We're going to end with one long sat, one short nam. Bring the palms together and inhale. Sat nam. Sat nam. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for your light. Thank you for your love. Remember who you are and have a beautiful day. If you have any questions for me, then just email me at therapy@andreaskitch.com. And I look forward to seeing you next week.